This is an AI-generated podcast based on the article When Transformation Requires More Than a Gym Membership, written by April. The article link is in the show notes. Hey everyone, April here. Today I'm sitting down with Jordon Groves, a fitness coach who spent 15 years watching clients lose weight only to gain it all back. That pattern pushed him to completely rethink what transformation really means. Jordon, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, April. Yeah, it's great to be here.
So you watched this cycle repeat for years. Clients would lose 30 pounds, celebrate with you, and then 6 months later, the weight's back. That had to be tough. What was going through your mind when you'd see them on the street?
Man, it really killed me. I thought I had helped this person, and clearly I had not. They had gone right back to square one. And I kept asking myself, what am I missing here? Like, the workout plans were solid, the nutrition was on point, but something deeper wasn't changing.
That's interesting. So you started thinking maybe the problem wasn't the workout plan at all.
Exactly. I realized I was treating the symptom and not the cause. If you only help them change their physique, when they look in the mirror, they still see the old version of themselves. And when stress hits, they revert to their old patterns and coping mechanisms. The body was never the real battlefield.
Wow, that's a pretty profound shift. But before we dive into what you do now, I want to go back a bit. You grew up in Wales falling in love with basketball, which, that's not exactly a huge sport there, right? And you taught yourself by studying Michael Jordan on VHS tapes?
Yeah, no team existed in my town, so I just bought these VHS tapes and studied them frame by frame. I'd press play, pause, and watch how he held the ball, how he shot, where he stood on defense. I'd look at his feet, his hands, everything. That obsessive attention to detail, it eventually took me to Proctor Academy in Boston and then semi-pro level in the UK.
But then the professional dream died, and you said something really vulnerable in the article, that when that dream died, a piece of your identity died with it. Can you unpack that?
That's a great question. I think my whole identity was I'm an athlete. When that dream died, it really took a piece of my identity with it. I lost myself. I was partying all the time, drinking, doing drugs on the weekend. It was like I didn't know who I was anymore without basketball.
And then you became a personal trainer, which gave you some purpose back, but it also turned you into an accidental therapist, right? Clients weren't just talking about reps.
Oh man, yeah, you hear all the gossip, what's happening with the family, and you're just like, oh, I'm just supposed to be helping you with your reps, and you're telling me about what's going on. But that 15-year window taught me to recognize patterns, not just in how people moved, but in how they spoke, what they believed about themselves, what they really meant behind their words.
So you're learning about the human condition through fitness. Then your father passes away during the pandemic, and I can't imagine how hard that was. You couldn't even say goodbye in person.
Yeah, we had to call him on FaceTime through a nurse's phone while he lay surrounded by equipment, unable to speak clearly. You're trying to think, what words are the words you're supposed to say when you're saying goodbye to one of your parents? That was incredibly difficult.
And that loss sent you on this 3-year search for truth. You explored Islam, Buddhism, New Age ceremonies, including ayahuasca. What were you looking for?
I wanted evidence, I wasn't interested in warm, fuzzy beliefs. I always felt like someone was pulling back the curtain a little bit and giving me a glimpse, but it never quite sat right with me. I always felt like I wasn't getting direct contact with God. The New Age path especially frustrated me. It was healing after healing after healing. I was like, am I not healed yet? How many of these ceremonies do I have to go to?
But the option you resisted most was Jesus. Why do you think that was?
I wasn't brought up in a really strict religious household, but I still felt so much resistance toward even looking into Jesus. Now with my faith, I believe that it's spiritual. It's a spiritual war happening. What broke through was the story of Lee Strobel, journalist and atheist who set out to prove Christianity was a con and ended up becoming a pastor. I watched the case for Christ and saw my own questions reflected back.
And you made your decision on Easter in Albania, posted about it on social media, and immediately got pushback.
Yeah, people were like, oh, don't do this. What are you doing? You've gone to the dark side. But later in Rio de Janeiro, I asked to be baptized in the ocean. I was worried I might come across as one of those influencers, but the pastors invited the entire church. There was a massive crowd of people, and I was a bit embarrassed, but it was fully worth it. It was an incredible experience.
So after baptism, you started integrating your faith into your coaching. You developed what you call the temple protocol. Walk me through that. What does it look like in practice?
Sure. So it's a 3-stage process. Stage 1 is identity first. Without this, no results are sustainable. I help men recognize that lasting change doesn't come from willpower. It comes from seeing new evidence of who they're becoming. If you have a perfect week, but there have been no problems in those 7 days, then you've not solved anything. Nothing has changed. There has to be pressure. That's the test.
That's really different from most fitness programs. What's stage 2?
Stage 2 is performance-based nutrition. Instead of just creating a calorie deficit, I look at deficiencies, testosterone levels, energy optimization. I'll ask them to get a certain type of blood test where they'll see their testosterone levels and everything. Then I'll know what we need to focus on. It's not about restriction, it's about optimization.
And stage 3?
Systems that survive chaos. I introduce green days and red days. On green days, clients follow the plan fully. On red days, bad sleep, argument at home, work stress, they text me code red and I adjust. Maybe the full workout becomes 20 minutes of stretching. The key is consistency, not perfection. As long as we're being consistent, it doesn't matter if you adapt the outcome slightly, as long as you're still going. That is enough to show yourself that you are someone who follows through.
I love that. It's so practical. And woven throughout are biblical principles: stewardship, discipline, obedience. How has your own daily practice changed since your faith journey?
Every morning, I read a chapter of the Bible, underlining, taking notes, asking myself, where does this show up in my life? Where is it challenging me? Where do I feel conviction? I'm a coach, so I'm a big believer in not just gathering information, but actually applying the information. The Bible always talks about not just reading the word, but living the word.
And that's reshaped your life. You've cut out pornography, stopped casual dating, started filtering every decision through a new lens.
Yeah, before my faith, the lens I looked through for everything was me. Now I try to see it through a lens of what I think God's guiding me to do. Sometimes what I think is the right thing to do, I feel like God is saying, no, pause. Sometimes a month down the line, I'll be like, right, okay, I understand that. Now it makes complete sense.
So, what's your advice to other Christian business leaders who maybe feel like they're running out of time, constantly behind, unable to change?
You still have time. Take a step back. Are you following the principles from the Bible? Are you following the teachings of Jesus? The Bible is the greatest self-development book I've ever read. It literally covers everything. And I'd say, stop treating Sunday church like another box to tick. The more you prioritize time for God and make Him first in the morning, the more you're going to start seeing the fruits, not just in your spiritual life, but in your business and in your relationships at home, in every area.
That's a powerful place to land. Jordon, thank you so much for sharing your story, from the basketball courts in Wales to the beaches of Rio and everything in between. It's clear that transformation, whether of the body or the soul, doesn't start with a new plan. It starts with a new identity.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, April.
And to everyone listening, you can find the full article and more about Jordon's work in the show notes. Until next time.